if you keep putting everybody else first, you teach everybody that you always come second. Like in the essence of almost like training people. Like, so if you and I are friends, but I'm always putting your needs ahead of mine, then what I've essentially done is I've taught you that like my needs never come first. So if I'm struggling or if I've got something going on, it matters, but not as much as your stuff does.
The TuneCreators podcast is brought to you by the TuneCreators Club, our premier membership site for emerging artists looking to turn their music side hustle into a full-time gig. As a member, you get access to 30 social media content ideas every month, special discounts from our partners on products and services you use, weekly masterclasses and Q&A sessions with music industry experts, a supportive community of like-minded musicians like you, and so much more. And best of all, the TuneCreators Club is free to join. We'll even throw in a $50 sign-up credit, 30 free social media posts, and 10 awesome freebies to get you started. So what you waiting for? Head over to tunecreators.com to join or click the link in the description below. And now, on to the podcast. Who's your favorite artist, musical artist, and why?
So my favorite band, I would have to say, is Motley Crue. So I have a brother he's 4 years older than me, and he was he wasn't like a big musician or anything, but he played with friends and had a band and did some played at local bars and stuff. But he was the one that really introduced me to music. I mean, I was raised in a very musical household. I mean, none of my parents have any musical talent. I don't either. But there was always music playing in the house. My parents had like speakers all through the house on the patio. So we grew up in a home just listening to different kinds of music, Motown, doo-wop, 60s and 70s. And then in the 90s, when, I was a teenager, my brother was a teenager, it was, the hair bands and in the United States, the Seattle scene when Pearl Jam and Nirvana and everybody came out. So that's where really I learned a lot about different types of music and different appreciation for music. But Motley Crue was like my brother's favorite band and was one of the ones he introduced me to. And it was like the first concert I ever went to in 1990 was Motley Crue's Dr. Feelgood. And it just ever since then, it's just been they've just been kind of like a very special and like hold like a special place for me. So nice. It will always be my favorite.
Nice. I was gonna ask if you have a musical background because you mentioned.
I do not. I can no. Yeah. I sing very well in the shower, and I can lip sync like nobody's business. But other than that, I do not.
Okay. I mean, we can't. You're good at what you do. The mental health side of things, but. But let's talk about your background in mental health. How did that come about?
I was always interested in mental health. When I was a little girl, I remember, playing with my Barbie dolls, and like one of my Barbies was like the therapist, and like the other one was like laying on the couch, like the very stereotypical view of therapy. And then when I got a little bit older, my mom had gotten cancer and she passed away when I was 16. And that's when I started on like my personal journey with going to therapy. And I had gotten, my first experience was with a support group through hospice and then just individual therapists over the years. I mean, I'm 46 now, so I've been going to therapy for 30 years on and off. And the experiences that I had with the different therapists over the years really kind of solidified for me, like, this is really what I want to do. I can't imagine doing it. I've done other work, but I can't imagine doing anything else because this is what I'm really passionate about. So that's kind of what my perspective was, kind of giving back to the people that had helped me over the years And that was really too why I wanted to specialize in the music industry, because music had given me such life and it provided such a background for me and for my childhood and growing up and memories of my family, that like it was just something that kind of always sat in the back of my mind. But when things, when musicians would die, whether by suicide or drug overdose or health issues over the last 5, 10, 15 years, what I've noticed is that just like with anything else, it's in the news for a week, couple of days, and then everybody kind of goes back to, except for the families and the people that were directly affected, everybody kind of goes back to like their normal way of life.
Yeah.
And it kind of sneaks out of the purview of everybody. Yeah. So for me, it's about making it more normalized. I think it was recently Shawn Mendes just canceled the rest of his tour. And he said, he put out the other day and he said, and I'm definitely paraphrasing, but I've been on the road and I love what I do and I love my fans, but like, I need a break. Like I just can't. And being able to speak up for himself and put his needs first, that needs to be normalized. And it's not. So that's kind of one of the things that I'm really passionate about, is making this more of a normal thing for people to do, and really treating the person before the profession.
Treating the person before the profession. What do you mean by that? Like,
there are people that, okay, well, you work in the music industry, so let's focus on these specific music industry issues that pop up for you, whether it's and these are all important too, stage fright or traveling, so on and so forth. But a lot of times people come to therapy because other things exist before that.
Okay.
So you may be a musician and music is your life, but there's a person before that. And that person's still going to exist regardless of where your career goes. So if your career ends after so many years, that there's still a person there. Yeah. So being working in the industry is part of who you are, but it's not all of who you are.
That makes sense. It makes a lot of sense, because we tend to forget sometimes that our heroes, our idols, if we want to call them that, are also human beings with their own personal life and going through their own personal things. Kind of like the example you use, it's quite common, that a lot of musicians are struggling with the mental health issues, stress, anxiety, all that stuff. And they do their best to hide that from the fans, and not which I don't think is such a good thing. But I like how you say normalize. But I guess, how do you balance that and make money at the same time? Like, because of him pausing his store is gonna cost his people money and the labels money and all that. But how do you?
Absolutely. And that's the thing. If you look at it from the perspective of normalizing the mental health wellness in the music industry, and as people are coming into the field, and they're getting, a publicist and A&R and management and everything else, why not put a mental health professional on your team?
On your team, yeah.
Right? So you have somebody that's there from the beginning. Because while it may cost people money to put a tour off or, hold things but that's something that the industry and their team can prepare for. Listen, I need some time off. I need to take time off. Okay, let's not schedule him for, and I don't know the intricacies of it, so I may be speaking out of turn, of course, but we can postpone this tour or this leg of the tour for X amount of months so he can go home and be with his family. Or if they, they have somebody that they're connected with on the mental health side, somebody that can be at certain locations or be on the phone or be available via telehealth. Having that accessibility, because what's going to cost money is if somebody has a mental breakdown in the middle of a tour and they disappear. They disappear. They go on a drug and alcohol bender. They, whatever the case may be, that's what's going to cost people money. So if you're going to look at it statistically, what we're doing, it's preventative health. You don't want to wait until,
it's too late. Yeah.
You don't want to wait until you have a heart attack and you're in the hospital for a week, have an emergency open heart surgery before you take care of your health.
Yeah, I agree. It's not talked about a lot. I think, but like you say, and part of my mission as well is to make people aware of, I was reading some stats about mental health in the music industry. It's quite shocking. I wonder if it was you that posted that up on Instagram. It's quite shocking that the high percentage of, breakdown, anxiety, suicides, all this drug abuse, everything going on in that industry. And it's especially us on this side that want to go in there. We don't realize how much toll it takes on us mentally, And it's just quite ironic because of music is kind of like, it kind of helps treat mental health issues, but making music causes mental health issues. But yeah.
And it is, and a lot of times, the artists and the people that work in the industry, they're channeling their emotions and their experiences through their music. I mean, back when, I'm older, so like I remember when MTV used to actually play music videos. So there was, thank God for YouTube now and Vivo, because people are still putting out videos. But when MTV was showing videos all the time, and being able to channel that and taking the message of their songs and being able to visualize it. I love Billie Eilish because she had done an interview and she was like, my videos are not even remotely indicative of what the song is about. And, it's like kind of leaving it open to interpretation. But it's just like if you read a book or if you like have a favorite quote, it's going to mean different things to you at different times in your life. And it's the same thing with music. A song that you listen to all the time, if you just had a breakup, is going to hit different, 2 years later when you're listening to it again, and it reminds you of something else.
It's so true. That is so true. My previous guest was talking about how a song he got him through challenging time he was going through, and that is so true. Music does that to us, doesn't it? Like it's really sad that thing that helps us out mentally is also causing problems for the creators of the thing, but it's unfortunate. Anyway, but I guess that's what we're here to talk about today. And
Yes.
If I know we've talked about mental health, we mentioned it a couple of times, but this is something that I know when I first got into it, I didn't know exactly what it was. How would you explain that to like a new musician just trying to get into the game? Like, how would you explain mental health to them?
I like thinking of mental health as part of a puzzle. So if you ever played the board game Trivial Pursuit, right? So you've got the circle and you've got to go through the different categories. And then if you master this category, you get a piece of the pie. And then once all the pieces are filled, then you win the game. And I kind of look at ourselves from that perspective. So we've got physical health, we've got nutrition, we've got self-care, we've got spirituality, socialization, nutrition, and then our mental and emotional health. Right? We can have mental and emotional health, but if we're not getting decent sleep, if we're not taking care of our bodies, if we're not exercising, the mental health is going to be okay, but it's not going to be running at optimal level. We can be going to the gym and working out and eating well, but if we have unresolved trauma, or we have things where we struggle with anxiety or depression, and those things aren't being worked on, this stuff is only going to get us so far before this stuff creeps back in and takes over. So all of these things are interrelated. A lot of our mental health and our wellness, since you mentioned you're studying nutrition, is related to the gut. So like if we've got good gut health, by nutrition and everything else, then that helps improve our mental health. Mm-hmm. Think of it this way: when you're nervous, right? How do you feel? Your stomach gets tingly, or your palms are sweaty, or your breathing changes. Everything that we experience emotionally and mentally, we experience with our body. That's why you can look at, you can be in a store and smell a perfume and, think about, an ex-girlfriend, or you can, smell a food and think about your family and, a family member that used to cook that for you. We experience everything with our five senses. And it's the same thing with our mental and emotional health.
That's very, very interesting. I like how you paint that picture. That just taking me back right now. Like just remembering the smell of some food. Just taking me back right now. That is so cool. So it's obviously it's very, very important to have a sound mental health, you say. And how does it impact us though? Like especially us that work full time and then do music on the side. How would you say mental health impacts our personal and professional life?
A lot of times we get stuck in, and especially when we're kind of trying to break into a career, and no matter what career it is we come up a lot against imposter syndrome, right? Feeling like we're not good enough, especially in this day and age with social media. Yeah. There's a lot of comparison that's happening. Look at this person, look at that person. Oh, they're putting all this stuff out and it's really good. Yeah. Look at all the likes and all the follows. And it calls our self-confidence and our self-esteem into question. Am I good enough? Should I be doing this? Maybe I should be doing it more. And it can kind of trick us into working more than we should be. Right? Because the work's always going to be there tomorrow. If you do 19 hours of work, there's still more work to be done. Like, so why not work 10 hours and go get some sleep and approach the next day like refreshed and like hydrated and feeling good so you can give your all the next day. So we're either doing that or we're just saying, screw it. Like I'm never going to reach this many likes or this many whatever. And, I should just give it up. Only for, 3 weeks later to go, you know what, this is stupid. I love doing this. I'm going to keep going. Right. Yeah. So it is really important to have that, just a sound basis in mental health. When I have anxiety, what do I do? When I get depressed, what do I do? How do I stay motivated? How do I know when to take a break and not feel guilty about it? And just being able to, from my perspective, being able to equip people who are younger in the, experience-wise in the industry, people just coming into the industry, and kind of giving them that foundation and that toolkit to get started somewhere and go, okay, here's some basics. Like, this is not going to cure your mental health issues, but here's some basics. Here's some things that you can refer to and have in your arsenal to okay, well, let me, have an appointment with a therapist in a week or two. So here's some stuff I can do until I meet with that person. And just being able to again, just to make that normal. Right? I mean, we can talk about how to manage our money. We can talk about, how to dress and how to appear in in our photographs and everything else, but why not tell people how they can help themselves sustain their wellness through this career? If you do it early on and you do it now, it prevents, if you want to speak to the executives, it prevents the loss of money in the future. True. You're taking care of your asset now.
True. Very, very true. I mean, like, look at somebody like the guy you talked about, like him pausing his content. Now, that's probably going to cost a couple, at least 100,000, if not millions of dollars for that pause. Probably have been prevented if they had, managed his mental health before.
But at the same time, it was worth it to him. It was worth it to him to take the hit, whatever that may be. I mean, there may be who knows, but it was worth it to him because he realized what was more important.
I agree.
He's a young kid, I mean, that's what he had to do, take care of himself. I mean, even if you go and look at the Olympics, I mean, poor Simone Biles, when she dropped out of the Olympics and said, I can't, the U.S. gymnast, and she said, I gotta take care of myself. I mean, that's being responsible.
I agree.
That's us recognizing what our needs are and being able to go, no, I can't be pushed anymore.
I agree.
And I'm glad that she did that. I'm glad these people are doing it, and it's coming out more in the forefront. But I don't want it to be news. I want it to be normal.
It makes sense. I get what you're saying in terms of it being normalized, the whole, where it should be. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, go take care of yourself. When you're done, you come back and we'll carry on from where we left off. That's what it should be. And you're right, because of your health is the most important thing at the end of the day, man. You could chase all the money and the career and the dreams and everything and get it and have messed up health, and you're not. If you're stuck in bed or you're not right mentally, you're not going to enjoy the money or even the life or anything at all. So,
but I mean, poor Britney Spears. I mean that poor girl was. Well, I mean, what was done to her, and the conservatorship, and it was she couldn't make her own decisions. But man, it was okay for her to go out and make money for everybody. That was okay.
Very true.
Why was that okay? If she's not well enough to take care of herself, why should she be
making money,
allowed to or pushed to go and have these shows and do these performances?
I agree. And people tend to exploit that. And this is why what you're doing is good, because of, if more people are aware of this, then, and if there's more outcry, then people won't be allowed to exploit certain people, because it's easy to. I remember it used to be bad back in the day in terms of musicians. You were pretty much like a slave. Go and do, regardless of how you feel, go do it. People like Michael Jackson or even Robin Williams to an extent. And I'm totally with you on that in terms of normalizing this and making it. Don't kill yourself because of what and you should be fine and okay with it. That's very interesting, which brings me to the next question then. What are some things that you'd recommend in terms of us? How do we manage our mental health so that we don't get to the stage where we start doing some crazy shit to ourselves, basically?
Well, being able to recognize that you do struggle, and I'm using the word you in a global sense, but, recognizing that you do struggle in some areas. Like sometimes there are days where I just don't get out of bed, or there's days where I just wear the same clothes for 3 days and just order food and watch Netflix, or I don't eat at all. Recognizing that there's something, while you may not be able to put a label on it, you're able to identify, like, there are times where I just don't feel right.
Mm.
Right. And if you're not going to go ask someone for help, being able to go, okay, like, so if you're like having a good day today and going, okay, recognizing like when you're in that space going, all right, well, I felt like shit for these few days. Like what was going on? Like what was happening? And being able to kind of identify what your triggers are.
Mm.
You know, it was I had a fight with a friend, or, you know, I created a song and I worked so hard on it and somebody told me that it sucked and then that was it. Like, and being able to recognize those things.
Mm.
But if we're not able to recognize them, if we identify there's something wrong, but we can't identify what the cause is, that's really like when somebody really should get like a mental health therapist or a wellness coach or somebody trained in mental health to kind of help, because really all we're doing is we're on the outside looking in, right? So I can see things, if I'm working with you, I can see things in you that, not that you're not aware of them, but it's hard for you to see it because you're in the middle of it. So being able to go, okay, and just I tell people, just brain dump, just go ahead and just throw everything out there and let me sort through it. And people will just come and just, because they've been holding on to stuff for so long, and they'll just come and just spend an hour just putting stuff out there. I'm like, okay. And they go, I'm so sorry. No, cool. Like it's out. Let's get it out. Now that it's out, you don't have to hold on to it anymore. I'm going to share this burden with you, and we're going to sort through it together and figure out how best to make this work for you. Because there is no one size fits all. I can't go, oh, well, you know what, you're struggling from anxiety, so let me, pull out my bag of tricks and go, okay, anxiety. No, that doesn't work. Because how you learn, how you communicate, your personality style, it varies from client to client. So I can't treat you the same way that I treat somebody else. There's no magic way of doing that. So and that's why I think it's important to have somebody from the beginning on your team, because that person then knows you. Mm-hmm. If I'm working with you and you need me once every 6 months, that's fine, whatever, that's cool. But I'm here and I know you. So that way, when something does come up, I can go, okay, all right, well, we've talked about this before, like, and being able to have that relationship and that comfort level, because that's really important. You're not comfortable with who you're working with, and it doesn't matter if it's a mental health professional or somebody else on your team. If you're not comfortable with who you're working with, you're not going to be your best self, and you're not going to put out your best work, because you're not being authentic, and you're not free to do what you need to for yourself.
That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. I like how you put it that way, and I love how you say, kind of like, when you try to analyze why you were feeling a certain way and you don't know why, then it's time to seek help. Because of while you were saying that, I was thinking about a certain person in my life. Anytime I talk to this person, I like to joke that my health is ruined my mood is ruined for the next 3 weeks just after having a conversation with this person. So he triggers a certain, I just feel bad after talking to this person. Yeah. So I guess in cases like that, you would recommend just cut. Just because that's what I do. I just cut certain people out of my life, like, just stay there. I don't want to, because every time I talk to you, you put me, I have to now think about our conversation for the next 3-4 weeks even. And so, okay. So I'm doing something good.
Well, and that's the hard thing too, is, we can walk alongside with somebody and give them empathy, but just because we give them empathy doesn't mean we have to absorb whatever it is that they're going through.
Yeah.
We don't have to be the fixer of the things.
No.
right? As a friend, we don't have to do that. So it's, hey, I'm here for you. I'm here to listen. That's really all I'm qualified to do. Like, you may want to call somebody, it's above my pay grade. So you may want to call like a mental health professional, somebody to help you out here. But being able to do that, because as friends and as family members, like, we don't want to see our loved ones in pain. So we want to try to help them. And sometimes by helping them, we take on their stuff instead. And that affects our mental health too.
Very true. And you don't want to carry more than you're already dealing with your own stuff. So you don't want to add on top of that as well. So that makes a lot of sense. And Danielle, this has...
and there's a lot of organizations out there. There's a lot of not-for-profit organizations, in the music industry, that provide a variety of resources, financial, mental health, addictions. I know you're in the UK. There's one in the UK. I don't know if you've ever heard of them. It's called Music Support.
Yeah.
Okay. And they're, I was gonna say they're a charity that helps people in the UK who are in music and do live events, and they help with mental illness and addictions. And they've got a confidential helpline, and I know that they go to a lot of the events and stuff, music events and stuff in the UK. But Music Support, I know, is a big one over where you're at. But there's a lot of those organizations like that in the United States as well. You can Google it, so there's an opportunity, and there's enough of us out there that are ready and willing and able to help. The hardest thing is just making a phone call.
Very true. I really like that. Good. Danielle, this has been really, really, really insightful conversation. It's one of my favorite topics right now in the music industry, which is the mental health. Because I've been involved in the creation, the performing, all that stuff. But this whole healthy side of things, I'm really loving it. And it's great when I meet professionals like you, especially that is focusing. Your niche, would you say it's quite small as a mental health professional that focus on the music industry? Would you say it's a growing industry, or would you say how would you describe it actually?
I would say it's a growing field. I definitely think that there is room. I don't think there can ever be enough helpers out there in any industry, but to know and understand the intricacies of the music industry, and not just from the artist standpoint, but the music business itself, from signing an artist to recording to videos to touring, all of those things, all of the different moving pieces of it. Because the performing and the traveling is, for the artist, it is a significant piece of it. But depending on who they are, they're involved in different parts and pieces of it as well. So being knowledgeable, not just about the mental health issues, but the music industry in general, I feel is really important for anybody that's going to be working in this field. And there are a good amount of amazing clinicians out there who do specialize in working in the mental health field, that specialize working in the music industry in the mental health field. So there are a bunch of us out there. Like I said, I'm hoping that it becomes more commonplace so that we're easier to find, and that not just that the industry has easier access to, whether they can afford it financially, insurance, because not everybody has insurance, being able to do that, because not everyone can always afford what a clinician's full rate is. So that becomes difficult as well, for people that do pay out of pocket. It can add up, especially if you're going weekly, or if you're kind of need somebody that's more on call or whatever the case may be. I mean, it can add up. So, there are things that I feel as clinicians we should be doing as well to kind of help bridge that gap to make it more accessible on our end, for people in the industry.
I agree. And I wish, because for me, from where I stand, it's a massive problem in a big industry, and not even the guys at the top. I'm talking about the ones at the bottom. Even
Yes.
Those are the ones. Yeah, those are the ones that don't even know they have mental health issues. But there's a lot of mental health issues to solve down here. So I can see that market being quite big, and it will help with people like you. Making, like you said, making it more accessible and bringing more awareness to that side of the issue. So totally agree. And we've come to the end of an awesome chat. I've really, really enjoyed this. This has been very, very valuable for me. I'm sure it's going to be for my audience as well. And at this stage, I like to ask for one final tip from my guest. And it doesn't have to be related to mental health, but if you could share one health tip with them, what would that be?
I just shared this with a client yesterday. If you keep putting everybody else first, you teach everybody that you always come second. Like in the essence of almost like training people. Like, so if you and I are friends, but I'm always putting your needs ahead of mine, then what I've essentially done is I've taught you that like my needs never come first. So if I'm struggling or if I've got something going on, it matters, but not as much as your stuff does. So think of an airplane, right? When you get on an airplane and they say, okay, your cabin loses pressure and the masks come down, what do they tell you to do, right? They tell you to put your mask on yourself first before you can help anybody else. Yeah. Right? We need to put ourselves first, not because we're being selfish or we don't care about people, but if I'm not taking care of myself, how can I take care of you?
That's true. That's very powerful. That is very, especially for people like me sometimes that tend to, because I'm one of those, that, but I guess I'm learning now to, like you said, use that analogy. Exactly. You gotta balance it. You gotta balance it sometimes. So that's powerful stuff, man. I really like that. That's I have to admit, that's one of the most powerful final tip I've got. And that was struck a nerve.
Feel free to use that. Go for it.
Definitely. Thank you so much for that, man. If any of our viewers is watching this, I would like to learn more about you, possibly work with you. What's the best way for them to do that?
The best way to do that is go to my website. It's www.themindsofmusic.com.
Okay, and you're also on Instagram as well?
I am, yes. My Instagram is Doc D Therapy.